Renovator. Retirement. With Charlie Jewett. Oh no, I think I'm about to have another episode. My friend Ian Grove. Are we actually going to do this? We're going to finally do this?
Well, let's make it happen, Captain.
What happened, Captain? Nice. I'm Captain Crunch. Coming at you from San Diego and Honolulu. We're finally going to do it in the trenches episode. I've been trying to do this for over 2 years in another city, but Ian, you win. You won the race. You were ready first. How's that sound?
I've been digging trenches. Let's get in there.
Digging trenches. I'm going to do an episode called "In the Tranches" at some point.
In the trenches.
There's tranches that are in financial services too. So, what is In the Trenches? In the Trenches is a type of episode where I interview a local advisor, somebody who's in a market, and they're seeing clients all the time. You know, multiple clients a week or daily. They're working at a heavy clip. They don't necessarily have to be on my team or a certified retirement renovator, but they do have to be somebody that I respect and trust and would want the world to know. But Ian, you happen to be, I don't know, between you and Andy, you might be competing for who's first because you were first in different ways, right? But you might be.
Oh, stop.
Keep going. Come on, bring it. Ian Grove is unique. You're in Honolulu, although you live on the North Shore because you're a surf junkie, right? Although you're not doing you're not surfing waves that are
guilty as charged
buildings. You sort of like the medium waves, right? Not the little kid
yeah.
wave.
I mean, basically, when I start feeling like I'm going to drown, I paddle in. So yeah,
That's probably smart. That's probably smart.
It's all relative, of course.
The difference is when I get knee high, when I'm walking into the water and I get knee high, I start feeling like I'm going to drown. So
yeah.
You're like, oh, when the waves are 3 times my size, 3 times my height.
Well, my wife literally, like, if it's 3 feet, she's staying on the beach.
Or you're like, if there's a shark above my head in the wave, no, I'm out. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you are full-time financial advisor, actually on my team. Not everybody who I interview will be, but you're on the team. And let's talk a little bit about how that came to be, how we met, who you are, and then also I want to talk about what you're seeing, what In the Trenches really is. It's not that I'm disconnected. I'm still meeting clients every week. But the more I get into the creation of materials and the being on television and the being on interviews and debating other advisors, the more I need to rely on other people that are still seeing 10, 20 people a week. I want to know what's going on and if what I'm teaching is still accurate, if people are still being put in the same crappy plans. So we'll eventually get to that, right? But let's talk about how we met on a beautiful romantic boat in Honolulu. Jeez Louise.
How did that happen? That was, it's got to be fate. I don't know.
Well, let me first tell the listeners, okay? I grew up poor and will be frugal probably till the day I die in some ways. In other ways, I'm not frugal, but I'm just not a guy that likes to spend like $300, $400, $500 a night on hotels, especially if I'm traveling without my beautiful, lovely girlfriend. If it's just me, if I'm bacheloring it, is that a word? Bacheloring.
Pretend it is, yeah.
Bachelorizing. I don't know what it is. If I'm staying by myself, and I don't need to make sure someone else is comfortable, and it's a work trip, I just need a bed. I mean, I just don't care that much. And I also like a little bit of adventure. I'm kind of into variety. So I stayed for years. And I mean, I've been going to Hawaii for 10 years, 4 or 5 days a month for 10 years now. I've stayed in a lot of different places, a lot of Airbnb, a lot of hotel. One time on Airbnb, a boat came up. Not a hotel or not somebody's home, right? But this boat. And I'm like, what? It's an 80-foot wooden boat right in, sort of downtown Honolulu. Well, not downtown. It wasn't like parked in the financial district, right? But it was like near everything. Anybody knows Ala Moana? It's in that area. Or
most importantly, it was right by a surf break.
Kaka'ako. That's where it is. It's in Kaka'ako, right? I don't know why I have to say it like a parrot, but it just makes me feel good. Kaka'ako. Want a cracker? Kaka'ako, want a cracker? All right, we're going to get off that now, right?
Yeah, focus.
You're like, what are you talking about? I'm waiting for you. So it's in this beautiful harbor. I show up and I'm like, this is crazy. This is so crazy. You walk down these tiny little stairs and then the rooms were like the size of like a coffin. I mean, it really was sort of like a floating coffin with no moving air.
And just so your listeners have context, if anyone's ever seen the movie Captain Ron, just think of that boat. it's that boat.
That one.
Without Captain Ron, of course.
I've actually stayed on the boat where we had like a cat fight, a stray cat entered the boat, like who didn't live there, and the cat who lived there was mad about it, and the other cat wanted to eat.
Yeah. And also, the owner of that boat is the female version of Captain Ron.
Human cat woman. Yeah, the owner was worth. She was Captain Rhonda. or whatever.
Yeah, she was awesome.
She was awesome. Like, talk about there are hippies. Trust me, there are still
Yeah.
there
Boat
are
hippies.
still modern day amazing boat hippies and entrepreneurs. She's an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. Like,
Oh no, she's killing it. Yeah.
living in Honolulu, crushing it, living on a boat into her, I don't know how old she was, but into her 50s, still wearing thong bikinis and rocking it, right?
Totally.
What are we talking about? Back to retirement. It wasn't about bikinis. Amazing experience. So I ended up meeting Ian on this boat. We'll keep that story short, but I just started the podcast and I was excited. And I'm like, listen to this. Listen to me be a buffoon, right? And so I'm playing them for Ian. Well, you're pretty aggressive, and I don't know what you've done to date, but I think you've listened to every show at least twice, right?
Yeah, I mean, you win the award of being my first ever podcast. I didn't even know what they were. Which you basically turned me into a complete podcast audiobook junkie now. It's amazing what's available for people if they want to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've listened to every single one multiple times actually. When I feel like I need a reminder, I just go back and brush up.
Well, I love rabbit trails, so let's talk completely about something that's not on topic and we didn't plan. Everything everything you could ever want to learn is available through podcasts for the most part. The other day, I was like, man, my girlfriend speaks Spanish. I live in Southern California. I've been around Spanish my entire life. I took it in high school. I go to Mexico, and I still can't speak fluently. You had the right training because you were a chef in kitchens, so that's where you really should learn Spanish. Forget the country, go cook somewhere. But yeah. I'm like, I'm not learning fast enough with these apps I have. Duolingo, which just does a great job. Used to have Rosetta Stone. I'm like, I go online. I don't know why this is so silly. I now have two podcasts, which I'll tell you about. But I go online and go, the best ways to learn Spanish through, what did I say? Like through your phone or through listening or something like that. And top 5 ways to learn Spanish pops up. And the very first one says podcasts. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Right? Like, what's wrong with me that I didn't think of podcasts first? Anyway, I just go find this podcast on how to learn Spanish.
And it's free.
And it's free. And I'm like,
it's free.
Because that's what works for me. I have a lot of time driving to the airport, driving to appointments or whatever, driving to get my kids. Any drives from like 20 to, well, you do too. You got more drive time than anybody I know. Because Ian lives an hour from like running water. That's maybe an exaggeration. That could be an exaggeration, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a pay price, and right now my starfruit tree's going nuts, so you can't get that in Honolulu. So
I don't know anybody who brags about a starfruit tree. Like, you know what a really good retirement is? Retirement is a fruitful starfruit tree.
Don't knock it till you try it. If I want breakfast, just walk outside and pick 3 or 4 of them, and life is good. So.
If your starfruit tree is so plentiful that you and your spouse are stuffed, and the geckos are, and the chickens are too.
Yeah, geckos and chickens. That is the other drawback.
Delivering starfruit to the homeless, you have reached the pinnacle of wealthiness. That's good. It will just be rabbit trails. It's only going to be rabbit trails, right?
Might as well just title it Rabbit Trail.
Rabbit trails make me happy. Oh, stop that. All right, whatever. So here's what I want to talk about. So you ended up, we'll make it real short. You ended up, we have similar backgrounds. You did you're like 3rd generation mortgage guy. I did mortgages. You understand realtors because you worked with realtors forever. Your family owns an estate planning company in Napa Valley. You have long-term care. All of it was screaming like, this is my brother from another mother, right?
Yeah.
And you said, I love what you're doing. I believe in this mission. Right? It's not about the money. It's great that we can take care of our families, but you said, I believe in this. And you came on board, got trained, drove me around. I was sorry for that time where you were my chauffeur, but it was good training, right? Ian drove me around all over the island, went to every appointment, listened, learned, got to where he may even be better than me, meets people without me, and runs the entire Honolulu office. Ian is not just I'm not just his first podcast, and he's not just competing for the first Retirement Renovator. He also has the nicest office in the entire group. 27th floor. It's nice. 27th floor, overlooking the Hawaiian Oceans. How do people react when they walk in?
Everyone's usually pretty. I got one guy that'll just stand at the window and look out, and you can tell when a jet takes off from the airport because you lose their attention, because they just shoot straight into the air.
You're like, here's what to expect when you come in the office. You'll walk in, go right to the window, you'll stare and drool while I talk at the back of your head about retirement. You'll leave, I'll have you sign paperwork, I'll Windex the window and clean up your drool. That's basically Honolulu retirement planning, right?
Yeah, it's a nice place to sit.
And just like the Joker brokers, we use that beautiful view to work people's emotions and rip them off, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Is it?
Actually, we had another guy that came in and said, basically the other main company here in Honolulu that does similar things to what we do. They're in a real big fancy office, and the guy's like, I feel like I'm paying for this office. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
are.
are. And you and I were
Yeah.
going to write a book called "How Much Is Your Advisor's Office Costing You?" We still might write it, right?
Yeah, it's in
Um,
process. And actually, just to back into that one more time, we pay for a very small office in a conglomerate of offices that is set up for people that don't want to pay for the entire floor. So there you go. We're not really charging everyone for it.
yeah, and frankly, we looked at offices that were not as beautiful, and they cost more in
Yeah.
Honolulu. So my point that I want to make is I'm the guy that's like, it's not about water bottles with your name on it and warm cashew nuts and smells like bread when you walk in. It's not about somebody working your emotions and having the 42-point touch system that a company with $1 trillion under management uses to keep people in a trance. The view is not about tricking people. It just happened to be where we are, and it's pleasant, and we still turn around and do the right thing. Well, let me ask you, do you do the right thing behind the scenes no matter what when nobody's looking?
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
good job.
legally obliged.
You
We
can
have to.
still work for me. I like that. That's awesome. All right, so in the trenches, what are we seeing? I know that we did some big seminars, so there's a whole bunch of people coming through at one time, probably 30, 40 people in a short period of time. Is it still the way, out there on the streets, the advice that's being given, is it still the way it was 2 years ago when I started the podcast? Are people still, the market's in a totally different place than it was 2 years ago, even though it's probably oversold 2 years ago. We're now 2 years. We're now 24 months longer into this ridiculous bull market that historically only lasts about 40, 49 months, and we're like over 110, I think. So we're 3 times as long as it should be going up. Are people still being told to buy mutual funds, to use risk with a side of fees, that risk is more reward, or is everybody now coming in with guaranteed income? Like, what's happening out there? Has it changed, or are the same lies still being perpetuated no matter what?
Uh, I'd venture to even say that it's maybe a little worse than you've kind of talked about.
How could it
It,
get
it
worse than when I started? I'm like, my first podcast, I'm like, I'm the guy who's going to spank the industry because it needs a spanking.
well, listen, I mean, you know how it is where whenever the market's hot and everything is going up, when it's at the peak of one of these cycles, everyone wants in. It's like real estate. Like everyone wants in when everything is going up, and it's like, that's usually not the best time to expose yourself to risk. All the other guys are pulling back. They're like, oh, let's wait for this thing to start going down. And so, they hear their friends or whatever. And here in Hawaii, in particular, I worked on the mainland for a number of years, but Hawaii, there's a whole lot of trust still in kind of the financial atmosphere, and it's almost like if you got a brother or an uncle or whatever, or even if they're not really your cousin, they're still your cousin out here, but they might be in the business, and it's like, oh, okay, for sure they'll do the right thing. But what they don't know is they're trained by a big company that teaches them from the top down how to sell that product.
Right.
When obviously from your podcast and stuff like that, people understand that are listening anyways, that whether it's by the agent's own ignorance or immorality, they're trained that way, and until they find the right way to do it, they're jamming people in. I mean, mutual funds are even just half the problem. The last round of seminars we did and all those meetings, I mean, half of this stuff was all variable annuities, and I'm going, come on. Like, and the story of my mom, where like there's one company in particular out here that has a pretty decent market presence, and they go around all the schools, we call them lounge lizards, and they sit in the teacher's lounge, and they push them into using their 403bs, which is good. They should be using their 403bs, but they're sticking them into variable annuities when there's better stuff that doesn't lose. And I'm like, and my mom did one. I'm like, Mom, come on. She's a teacher on the Big Island. And this is kind of one of the biggest hot buttons that got me started with you, is I was like, why would they do that? And it's the guys, they're like college bros, and they're just trying to make a buck, but they don't realize that the company that taught them what to do taught them wrong, because it's best for the company, right? So anyways, I mean, we're finding the main thing that I see that makes me sick is just all these variable annuities. Like, a lot of times it's harder to get the money out of there than it is for just saying, okay, well, you got a basket full of risk with a side of fees in a mutual fund. It's a lot easier to kind of make that transfer. than it is to say, okay, now we got to get on the phone, find out how many fees you're being charged, find out what kind of surrender charges you got to deal with, and there's strategies obviously that, to get them out of it. But, I mean, for an example, it's bad.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but as you're talking about the horrors of variable annuities, there's like beautiful birds in the background chirping. It sounds like Snow White. It's like Disney or something in your house. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
we kind of like that. I love that, man. So
we live close to nature.
You close? I think you live in a nest. You already. Yeah. It's unbelievable, but beautiful. So variable annuities, for people that don't know, I mean, we're on the show. I am the guy. Ian has joined. We're the people that are like, there are no bad tools, right? It's somebody that attacks a tool, says, I hate blank and you should too, has already disqualified themselves as not intelligent enough or doesn't have the moral capacity to speak and be honest with people. Because the way the conversation should go is like, well, here's all these tools and each one exists for some reason because somebody said, here's something I want. And I was an electrician. I know this to be true. I created tools every day. I'm like, I wish I had a tool that did X, Y, Z because I'm trying to do X, Y, Z and it's not going well, right? And before we had hammer drills, somebody was like, I don't like this because I'm drilling and it's like burning up bits. I wish I had a drill that hammered at the same time and chopped the stone away. Nothing wrong with any tool. So variable annuity, there is a place for a variable annuity. Unfortunately, it's misused. The place for a variable annuity, the one and only place, is probably ridiculously rich person with a lot of non-IRA money, after-tax money, who still wants tax deferral. And for some reason, that's worth paying 4 times the fees that you need to pay. Other than that, if somebody had a pre-tax money, a 403B or an IRA or money that already has the tax deferral, and then stuck you into a variable annuity where one of the benefits is tax deferral, and then inside of it, they just give you mutual funds, but only 40 of them instead of 8,400, and then they charge 4 times the fees of Vanguard or somewhere you could. It's a horribly misused tool, and it has a great commission. And again, this is one of our mantras. The guy that sold it to you or your loved ones, it doesn't mean they're immoral. They may just be ignorant, but they're one of them. If they weren't immoral, like doing it on purpose, or ignorant, doing it without realizing there's something better, it wouldn't happen. Does that make sense? It shouldn't happen.
Yeah, and look, I mean, as another example, I was going to this kind of like a networking deal once a week, and there was another advisor in the mix, and I got up and I said, I want to educate the educators. I want to talk and see what school teachers right now are getting their fingers into, because we're finding a lot of variable annuities. And I kind of made my case, and then he came up to me afterwards and he goes, he basically said, a 403B, I mean, that's a variable. And I'm like, what do you mean that's a variable? He's just like second nature, like, oh, that's just a variable annuity. That's what you do with those. And I'm like, why would you do a variable when you can put them into something that's the same type of tool? It's you do a fixed index annuity where there's no risk, no fees, and beautiful gains. He's like, that's not why you do a fixed annuity. You just do a fixed annuity to protect the principal. It's not going to grow. I'm like, dude, there's this one that's crediting 90%. It's beating all the variable annuities. And he had no idea, and I mean, he's a nice enough guy, but it just goes to show that like they're not being taught, or they're not being shown what's best for the client. They're being shown what's best for the company.
Right. And it's a general principle in the world, which is one of the ways one of the reasons I tell people to listen to the podcast. You don't know, you consumer, person out in the world, just like you and I, we don't know what exists. We don't know our options. We know what's advertised, what someone pays for us to know exists, or which advertisements we've come across on the particular sources of media, whether we watch TV or not. You only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. Agreed?
Exactly.
Now, take that into the world of how financial advisors are trained, and the fact that the majority of financial advisors are not independent fiduciaries working for themselves, paying the extra fees, getting the extra licenses to fight the good fight and have their own compliance. Most financial advisors, I don't know what the number is, I've heard 1.5 million, or it doesn't matter what the number is. Say there were only 1,000 in the entire country. Most of them are not that independent fiduciary. They're going to be working for a company because of all the things that company provides: office space, training, relationships, discounts, higher pay. I have a friend went to work for one of the big 3. That's more of a tax term, right? Tax firms or accounting firms. One of the
big 5 is the accounting.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
I sound smart now, don't I? Thanks, Ian.
Sorry.
Appreciate that.
I think it's the big. I think it's the big four for the
right.
financial. I don't know. Whatever. They're just big.
One of the big 19, and whatever. One of the big 3 firms we talk about, Edward Morgan Lynch, right?
Yeah.
So he went to work for one of them with some experience selling life insurance, but no securities license, and they started him at $80,000 a year.
God.
Okay.
I mean, that's the thing. Is it?
Be honest. What did I start you at? Let's just be honest. Where'd you start?
Nothing.
Thank you very much.
I had to pay.
Exactly. You're still paying.
Yeah.
$80,000 a year to just try and see if this person can peddle your wares. Why is that worth it for these big companies, or why do most people work in that model? Because, dude, I mean, if you're going to try to start on your own and be a fiduciary and build a business from scratch, doing the right thing, you have to claw. And you know this. I know this because I did it. You know this because you've done it over the last 2 years. You got to scratch and claw to keep your integrity and do the right thing, because it doesn't pay as well. Where this guy was handed $80,000 a year and said, why don't you just go build a book of business? We'll see how things are rolling a year from now. Most of the people, so let's go back to what I was originally saying, people don't know what exists. They know what's advertised to them. As a consumer, that's what's advertised on television. As an advisor, what is advertised to you? What does advertisement look like? It's whatever your superiors or the company you're working for are telling you to do. And that's what you're seeing is regurgitated, ignorant recommendations from captive agents or mutual fund salesmen that work for one company. And they just come in and tell everybody buy a variable annuity or put all your money in risk with a side of fees because the market's been going up at blah, blah, blah for, back in decades that have nothing to do with us. It was, it grew. So you should still do it now. I don't know why I say that, but I get paid.
Well, let me just comment on that real quick. We got a guy, we won't mention names, of course, but we got a guy that had a pile of money, a healthy portion of money in one of the big 3 or 4, whatever, Edward Morgan Lynch, one of those guys, over the last 4 years when everyone is making money in the market, and his account went down over the last 4 years. This ding dong that sold him into, whatever fund that he's in couldn't even make him money where we're up, the Trump run up, we're in the biggest bull market.
You throw a dart and make money.
You know what I mean? You really don't have to be intelligent in order to be an advisor and make your clients money right now.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. I mean, that should be criminal. That should be criminal.
That should be criminal. And then so in Hawaii, they have the big companies, the big retail. You see them in every strip mall where they use advertising and comforting to make people feel comfortable and then rip them off. And they have the revenue sharing agreements, which I talked about in the fiduciary, the other F word episode. They basically exist to rip people off and steer them into high paying mutual funds. But they get 12,000 offices, and that makes people feel like, oh, I should be comforted by how much money they spend on rent. That's weird, right? Should be comforted by whether you're being told the truth and having good performance. But not just that. Hawaii is a trust-based relational community. And there's another company, probably the biggest company I've seen over the last 10 years, family-owned, independent, offers annuities, offers insurance, offers tax advice, offers some comprehensive stuff. All that sounds great. That sounds like me, right? However, they've earned the trust of the Hawaiian community. And then behind the scenes, you and I both know what they do after all that incredible comprehensive planning pitch and tax-free retirement planning and guaranteed income. What they're doing behind the scenes is every single person, no matter what age they are and how much money they have and whatever their goals are, every single person goes to the exact same insurance company, the exact same products, and they happen to be the products that have the highest paying commission in the entire industry.
Yeah, and those are the guys that are in the nice fancy office, and one guy's like, I know I'm paying for this office.
And just as an example, we met a guy who had probably 20 or 30 policies between he and his wife with just that one company or that one financial advisor. I mean, this was his advisor for the last 10, 20 years. And I reviewed every single one of them. You remember that? We sat in his office and he brought them all out, and I made a pile and said, these ones we're going to leave alone. These ones we're going to take a peek at, right? Mm-hmm. And that wasn't willy-nilly. That was because the ones that we were leaving alone were actually better than what we could get today. The ones that we reviewed, you probably remember, I called the insurance company and said, okay, this guy's had, multiple, huge, over $500,000. This guy's had over $500,000 sitting in this account over the last, 5-6 years as the market's been going up at record highs. What strategy was he in? How much of those, what's his cap? When the market went up 20%, was he getting 11? And they said, oh, he's been in the fixed account. He's been making 3 or 3.5 the entire time during one of the largest run-ups in the market inside of an index tool, where this is why you buy them. When the market goes down, you don't lose, but when it goes up, you get a big healthy chunk. They're averaging 7 or 8%, and the entire time, this guy had over $500,000 sitting in, actually it was a 10-year period, because I remember saying, well, money over 10 years, the rule of 72 says money over 10 years makes, if it's making 7.2 over 10 years, it doubles. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I think this mistake your advisor made, right product, wrong strategy, I think it's cost you $1 million. Your $500,000 should be over $1 million right now. I'm sorry, I think it cost you $500,000 or $500,000 because you didn't participate in any of this ridiculous upside potential. So it's not just the initial recommendation people make, Ian, isn't it? The ongoing maintenance of that, whether it's a joker broker account that didn't grow over 4 years when it should have been, or an insurance policy or some index strategy that is in the wrong strategy when the market's going up.
Yeah, it's like that for a lot of this stuff. Where I couple times this has already happened too in the last couple of weeks. Lady was like, "Oh yeah, it's in a annuity. We're way past the surrender charge date or whatever," and she's like, and the lady that put me into it said she'd check in with me once a year to make sure that it's on track with where we want to go, and I haven't heard from her in 8 years. And I'm like, isn't that part of having a client? Is you just check in, once a year, just check in, say, hey, let's take a look at everything, make sure you're on track. If it's not, let's adjust, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like probably she got paid once, just like a realtor. You get paid once, and you're like, oh, I totally forgot about you next week. So it's I don't know. It's just you reference it as like kind of malpractice or lots of different things. But,
yeah.
That if it's like hard, like I wish you could actually sue someone for that. You know what I mean? Because you basically have a $500,000 opportunity loss in
right.
that one guy's case, right? And it's like that's not a couple boxes of beer. That's a house. Mm-hmm. Maybe not in a house here, but
do you reference everything in beer? Like, oh no, I got a speeding ticket. That was 19 cases of beer.
Yeah, beer and surfing. Come on. But the
ultimate beach bum, Ian Grove in the church.
The other thing I want to kind of make mention of, or maybe talk about, is when we meet people, and I know early on, and you're pretty hard on the advisors, and especially early on in your podcast, you're pretty ticked off and stuff like that. I know we still are, but a lot of times the relationship building process, that's not hard. Like anyone can make a relationship with somebody, whether it's friends or whatever. Obviously the portion of doing right by that person, and that's not happening. And then someone like me or you comes along and says, like, how do you say to where it's going to not hurt someone's feelings or something like that? Like, this guy totally screwed up your finances. You should leave him, even though you like him, or whatever, and people don't like to hear that. They don't like to hear that they maybe were ignorant themselves and took the bait, or someone that's their uncle or cousin or whatever, they're going to still see him at barbecues and stuff like that, sure. Family gatherings. Like, that seems to be one of the biggest challenges that I can see moving forward with any of these potential clients or clients.
Right.
And some of them are just mad. They're like, okay, screw this, let's fix it. And that
those
fired.
are the lucky people. They're easy to work with if they're mad.
Yeah.
And this was where you and I went to exactly the same place, even though we didn't map this out or anything. We went to the same place. We talked about, is it still the same out there? People come in with the same crappy recommendations. And it sounded like the answer is yes. And the next thing I was going to say, is it still the same where the consumer, because my book, Renovating Retirement, my book's the first section is advisors need to repent. The second section is consumers need to repent. What do consumers need to repent of? They need to repent of making this one decision in your life about relationship and handling it differently than every other major decision you will ever make. I don't know anybody who's like, I want to drive a Tesla. I want to drive a Mercedes. I want to drive a Honda. And you're like, but the guy that I trust, the salesman I trust, happens to work, I don't even think we have Saturn anymore, but happens to work at Hyundai or happens to work at Mini Cooper. So, oh, well, I know I have 6 kids, but we're going to have to drive a Mini Cooper because it's more about the salesman, not what I get. Nobody would do that. That sounds silly, right? Nobody would say, I've got this gifted, amazing child. They're going to go to Harvard, or they're going to go to, I don't know where they have a good med school, but they're going to go to the best med school in the country or whatever, right? Say, but oh, darn it all, my roommate from college who I really trust works for the University of Phoenix or works for some state university. So my kids are going to be forced to go there because the salesman who I buy it through is more important than the end result of what I get. This is the only industry, Ian, where the psychos, the evil people who run it, have done such a good job convincing the consumer it's not about what you get. It's about who you buy it from and how comfortable you feel and how many client parties they throw and how much wine they send you and what their office smells like and looks like. Yet behind the scenes, they're not going to live your retirement years. They're not going to run out of income. It's you. And you and I are a tiny little candle in the darkness saying, if you want to exaggerate it the way I do in my podcast, you guys would be so much better saying, I hate Ian and Charlie. I hate them. I hate surfing. I hate beer. I hate fun. I hate happiness and laughter. I hate them. But I am working with them because I believe I'm going to get the best retirement possible. And the salesman quote, or the door you have to walk through doesn't matter. What matters is the room that you end up in. And you're still seeing this. You are still seeing in your office that I watched it. I watched somebody where we said your fees are 3.9%.
Oh, yeah.
We can take those to 0 or to 1% if you still want a guaranteed pension paycheck. Same product. Not even like leave the stock market and go to something you've never heard of. This was like go from annuity to annuity, wasn't it? Right? You're paying 3.9. We can take you to 0 or 1 with the snap of our fingers. Would you like us to do that for you? And what did they say?
I got to think about it.
I have to think about it. I have to think about it.
I'm still chasing that guy.
I could give you, somebody shows up at the door. I could give you $40,000 right now, or I could give you $10,000. You know how long I have to think about that? I would not have to call my CPA. Actually, let's say one guy was going to give me $40,000 and another guy was going to give me $10,000, right? I would not say to the guy offering me $40,000, let me ask the guy who's going to give me $10,000 for their opinion on what I think I should do. Could anything be more stupid or more inefficient?
And here's the other kind of silly portion of it is not to sound salesy when talking to the gentleman, but every day that goes by, 3.9% on not a small amount of money, every day that goes by, he's still on the hook for that. So he's still paying up until he makes a decision to get out of that stupid product that he was in. I mean, whatever, something's better than nothing, but he's got to get out of that because it's costing him money every day that goes by. So it's not like a thing where I'm like, hey, become our client. It's like, dude, you're wasting money right now. You know what I mean? Like every single day. And
here, let's quantify it. Let's quantify it. Let's say somebody's making, I'm gonna use that 7.2% because your money doubles every 10 years. Somebody's making 7.2%, right? Over a 10-year period, and they have $500,000. I don't care if you have less than $500,000. I just want to use this example because in retirement, it's helpful to have more money. So a lot of people we see have accumulated. So at 7.2 over 10 years, if it's worth $500,000 right now, you end up with over $1 million. It's like $1,002,115.
Yeah.
What if there's a 3.7% charge? So that takes our 7.2 down to 6. What? 6. I'm not doing good math here. 6.6, and then the 3 is 3.6.
Oh yeah.
7.2 minus 3.7. Is that what I was doing?
3. Sure.
That's not right. 7.2 down to 3.5. I think. Let's calculate it. So you end up with $705,000 if you're compounding at 3.5% instead of 7.2. Okay, so you just paid someone $300,000 $300,000 every 10 years. That's $30,000 a year, right?
That's a very expensive financial advisor.
$30,000. I could think of some more fun ways to use $30,000 a year in Hawaii.
That's insane.
Why do people do this? I would go back to an earlier podcast. What is it? The biggest risks people have. What was it? The 3 Ps, right? So there's procrastination. I know there's personality persuasion. So letting someone's personality affect you. Postponing, and right now, even though it's my podcast, I don't remember what the other one is, but people procrastinate this and they make it about how they're feeling or about their relationship with their existing advisor, or for some ungodly reason wanting to go back to the person that screwed it up and ask their advice on what we're teaching, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know what I think it is? As the more I study psychology, we don't like the hard road. There's so much going on in our lives. We're looking for shortcuts at all times. And what's one of the shortcuts? Don't do the research. Don't be uncomfortable. Find someone you trust. Ask them to tell you what to do, and just do it.
And that's, I mean, that's the kicker, right? Like, we all want to trust that the person has our best interest at heart, but let's look at the reality is the numbers don't lie, right? And I mean, that's our biggest challenge. Our biggest challenge is us sounding kind of like we're bashing on whatever they've done in the past and their person that they trust, right? And then telling them that, like, we're doing a better job, but the reality is that, like, they did a subpar job with your money. And how do we convey that message?
Imagine trying that in the mortgage industry, right? Somebody's like, hey, your rate is like 0.5% or 1% higher than everybody else. And you're like, but I'm going to send you a lot of email, and we're going to have a client party once a year, and I'm going to show up at your funerals.
Well, and
you should pay $4,000 a month instead of $3,000 a month for your mortgage because of the service we provide. Because it's not about what you get; it's about who you get it through. No.
I mean, frankly, that's why I got so excited about learning what you do. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, most of the people in the market have things that are inferior, which means that we can do right by a ton of people. It's almost like a giant refi boom where, like, somehow we have a small group of people that have the lowest, or the small group of company that has the lowest rates possible because they don't spend a lot of money on advertising. And we can provide those rates to customers. Why wouldn't everyone just jump on board right away? Well, it's because they're being manipulated, So,
yeah.
And I come from the mortgage background, and to me, it's just very basic math. It's like, what's the difference between a 3% rate and a 4% rate? Well, 3% is better if you're paying 3%, right? If you're earning 4%, 4% is better. So,
right.
Like, I just don't understand why people don't look at the logical portion of the math. That's all you got to look at.
And let me throw in a teaching that I have on some podcasts. I don't remember which one it is. I should probably do an entire show just on this. If someone is quoting you income, retirement income, and another company says you can have $5,000 a month guaranteed for the rest of your life, and then you talk with Ian and he comes along and says you can have $5,500 a month, the way the normal consumer is going to look at that, Ian, is they're going to say, oh, Ian can give me 10% more. Is it really worth it? He's out of town. We got to work by phone. He's not, whatever. They're going to look at it as from 5,000 to 5,500. But here's the reality. In your life, most of your expenses are fixed. You have possibly a mortgage or rent. You have heating and air conditioning. You have cable or internet. You've got phone services. Of that $5,000 a month that you may live on, let's just pretend that $4,000, $4,500. I don't care about the numbers. Just pretend $4,500 went to your lifestyle, your living, you're paying for bills, and $500 was left over for you to go out to eat and see movies and travel to see your kids and save for vacation. So one offer is you pay your bills of $4,500, you have $500 to spend. Ian's offer, and this is what I talk about all the time, I can give people 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% better life. Because it's not about 5,000 to 5,500. It's if your bills are 4,500 and one person gives you 500 more to spend on fun, and the other person gives you 1,000 more. If Ian gives you 5,500 and you only have 4,500 on bills, That's 100% more lifestyle, 100% more trips to see your grandkids, 100% better cars, 100% better restaurants, 100% more vacations. And we don't usually take people from 5,000 to 5,500. We take them from 5,000 to like 6,500 or 7,000, don't we?
Yeah.
This is not small stuff. So in closing, so as we wrap it up, now you've seen a big, giant group of people over the last 2 years, what they come in with, the psychological struggle they have with making decisions and switching, moving money, and what we have to offer as a percentage, 70%, 80%, 100%. If 1,000 people from all over the country were sent to you, because anybody can call you. Anybody can call the show or call you and say, I want to work with Ian. It doesn't matter that you're in Hawaii and they're where they are, because what are the chances that the best financial advisor on the entire planet happens to live in their town anyway? Silly, right?
Well, they might as well fly out here on vacation.
Hey, once a year, annual reviews. That's why Ian always has his annual reviews. People want to show up, right? As a percentage, how many people do you think you could improve their retirement if they just showed you what they were currently doing and you said, well, here's the other options?
Might sound kind of arrogant, but probably 99%.
Yeah. To me, it doesn't sound arrogant. The listeners can do whatever they want, but that's what I've been saying is I can help basically everybody, because it may be like leave everything exactly the same, but let me show you how to pay less taxes. Or maybe let's move this one account and leave the rest alone, like we did for that one guy where we said, let's leave these 13 alone and move the other 9 or whatever, right? It's just, if somebody calls in and they're perfect, they haven't lost. We're going to pat them on the back and let them sleep at night so peacefully. Say, dude, how'd you do that? It's never happened to us. We're like, you cannot improve on that. You have the best financial plan on the planet. Good job. Or we make it better so they can't lose.
Yeah, I mean, literally so far, I've not found one person that we couldn't do better for. So I say 99% because there's got to be somewhere out there that's on the right track,
Right?
There's got to be, but so far, I haven't seen that yet.
So if people want to get in touch, if you'd like to talk to Ian or go out and surf with Ian or rap with him about your retirement, talk about beer, talk about living in nests and small places with starfruit, whatever you want to talk about. If you want to get in touch with Ian, just email ian@renovatingretirement.com, IAN @renovatingretirement.com. You guys know how to reach me, charlie@jewettwealth.com. Does my renovatingretirement.com email work yet, Ian? I know I'm not the tech guy.
We got to
I'm
talk
not the
to
tech
the
guy.
tech people. I don't know.
You can try.
So far, I think I'm the only one that has a renovating retirement email.
Exactly. And when you refer your friends, you're like, these guys are the best at retirement. Probably not the best at email servers, but they're really good at retirement. So I'm always charlie@jewettwealth.com, JEWETT wealth.com. But you can get in touch with Ian @renovatingretirement.com. And for now, we'll sign off. It was In the Trenches. I like your trenches. Good job, Ian. Keep working. Keep fighting the good fight. Saving as many people as we can. Just like we always say, Ian and I can't walk on water, and we can't heal the blind, but we can save your retirement. You people are the best.
Renovating Retirement with Charlie Jewett.
But that's all, folks.